Hello again. So, years ago, there was a radio program called Shickley's List. It was played basically on PBS or public broadcasting radio stations, I think. Um, Peter Shickley, musician, did a lot of comic musician type stuff. And he also did a lot of music theory things. So, he had this weekly program where he talked about various music um, phenomena, let's call them. And I remember one week he did one on isorhythmic songs. It's basically songs which have the same rhythm, quarter note, eighth note, quarter note, etc. Now, I'm not going to talk about that. I tried looking this up. I'm not even sure if it was called isorhythmic, to be fair. Um, But trying to look this up, I came across isometric music, which is similar concept. Only instead of having the same rhythm, it just has the same number of syllables. So the rhythm isn't always the same. You can't just, but the number of you can sing one song to the tune of another, but the rhythm isn't going to be the same. So you might have to draw out a syllable a little longer or whatever, but it still sounds somewhat good. Um, Now, there is, of course, that whole drawing out syllables doesn't always work out because, let's face it, I can always, if I want to, I can always just draw out a syllable for two notes instead of one. You know, modern music, the syllable ooh can cover 50 notes if you wanted to. Ooh, baby. And of course, modern music, baby has three syllables all the time. So, it's still not a perfect thing. But I just got to thinking about this a few months back, having too much time on my hand at the time. And so the big thing, supposedly all of Emily Dickinson's songs should be sung to the tune of the Yellow Rose of Texas. Um, I looked them up. Not all of them can. Some of them actually have very different meters to them. Um, and some of them, even with the similar meters, they're still off by a syllable, so you have to sort of fake it to get it to work. But because I could not stop, because I could not stop for death, it kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves in immortality. Yellow Rose of Texas. Um, Now, when we're talking, according to the internet, this is called isometric. But back when we studied poetry, meter was more than just the same number of syllables. Meter was you have stressed and unstressed syllables spaced apart. So you'd have unstressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, unstressed, stressed, and so isometric. What's called isometric music isn't the same as the meter we learned in poetry in school. I always hated that. In fact, oftentimes I think the old poets weren't actually following the same meter all the time. They didn't have the stresses on all the same syllables, in my opinion. I could be wrong. But I taste a liquor never brewed from tankard scooped in pearl. Not all the Frankfurt berries yield such an alcohol. So again, Emily Dickinson doesn't quite always fit the same, but you can make it up as you go. Now, one thing about isometric music is if you find two songs which are isometric, if you find a third one, now you can start singing them all to the same tune or to each other's tunes. So, because I could not stop for death, ye kindly stop for me. The carriage held but just ourselves into immortality. Or if you prefer, just sit back and I'll tell it. Just sit back and you'll hear a tale of a faithful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. So there you go. You can start interchanging songs all you want. And so I just got, started trying to think, what songs do I know which we can do this with? I started trying modern songs, and I came up with like, ooh, this works. And then I looked up the words online. And it's like, okay, the tune I have on my in my head doesn't quite fit these actual lyrics, and so it doesn't really work. But I found a few older ones now. Animal Farm, George Orwell. The animals took over the farm, and they came up with their national anthem. And their new national anthem, George Orwell says, it was sung to either the tune of La Cucaracha or My Darling Clementine, because these are both isometric music or isometric songs. You don't believe me? Let's see how this works. Um, oh, my darling Clementine. Wait. Sorry. Started with the title there, not in a cavern, in a canyon, excavating for a mine, dwelt a miner, 49er, and his daughter Clementine. Compare that to La cucaracha, ya no puede come near, porque no tiene, pork no tiene, pork la falta una pata para andar. Yeah, so we got that going for us. One you'll find on the internet if you look this up will be matching America the Beautiful with Auld Lang Syne. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. There's that. And then there's, let me get the tune in my head here. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and the days of Auld Lang Syne, for Auld Lang Syne, my dear. Can't get this next one to fit. Anyway, so the two I've managed to come across which actually work, for those of you who are fans of Broadway musicals and Negro spirituals, we have tried to figure one of these out. Hear me now, O thou bleak and unbearable world, thou art base and debauched as can be, and a knight with his banners all bravely unfurled now hurls down his gauntlet to thee. Compared to Nicodemus, the slave was of African birth and was bought for a bag full of gold. He was reckoned to be of the salt of the earth, and he died years ago very old. 'Twas his last sad request, so they laid him to rest in the trunk of an old hollow tree. Wake me up was his charge at the first break of day, wake me up for the great jubilee. So, isometrics. When I've got the time to think about it and actually have real music in my mind, trying to find them doesn't always work the best. If you got the time to, you can play around with it in your mind, try to come up with your own. Those are just some that, like I said, they're mentioned on the internet or in books or whatever. Other than that, I will leave you with a bird came down the walk he did not know I saw. A bird came down. Actually, that one doesn't work very well. Let's try. Emily Dickinson was a bit crazy here. I felt a funeral in my brain and mourners to and fro. Kept treading till it seemed that sense was breaking through. Doesn't rhyme the best. doesn't really fit the meter the best. But again, Emily Dickinson, looking up her song, this woman was crazy. It's no wonder she had uh, Yellow Rose of Texas stuck in her brain. Maybe that drove her crazy. I don't know. Anyway, good night.